Hey guys, Karen from Curl House. I'm a licensed cosmetologist and certified trichologist, and today I'm going to respond to one of your questions. Now, Deanne asked the question, what do you do about single strand knots? I regularly trim, but I always get them. Any advice? Thanks. Okay, single strand knots. That's what we are going to talk about today. So, single strand knots or fairy knots, the one thing that they are is annoying. If you're touching your hair and if you can feel these little tiny knots on your hair strand, normally I feel them at the ends of my hair. Sometimes I may feel them further up. They are annoying. So Deanne wants to know, how do you get rid of them? Well, first and foremost, because our hair is curly and because our hair sometimes attaches to other hair strands, we get knots. But the problem is, if we're getting too many knots, that can cause our hair to get weaker. So that's what I'm going to address today. Now, Deanne, you're already doing what's right. The very first thing I recommend is to get a trim. So if you're dealing with a lot of single strand knots, the very first thing is to think about, well, when is the last time I had a trim? When you have a split end and when that one strand splits into two at the bottom, that of course is an area of weakness. And that is when that particular area of the hair is fragile. So your hair strands can attach to other hair strands, creating knots. So the very first thing to do is to get a trim. That's number one. Now, again, I know you already got a trim. So let me give you another recommendation. Another recommendation is to do an oil rinse. I know I picked her up before and I don't think I really explained why I picked her up. So let me explain now. When your hair, again, when it's curly, it tends to, very similar to her hair. Now this is weave, but it definitely mimics our hair, and that the hair is curly and it tends to attach to other hair strands. If you are doing an oil rinse, so in other words, after you shampoo and condition, you rinse your conditioner out, then take your favorite oil, like jojoba oil is an example, or avocado oil. Take a little bit of oil and you can pour it on your hair, or if it's in a spray bottle, you can mist it on your hair so that you can coat your entire hair strand with oil. If you have oil on your hair strand, then that is going to help with the lubrication of your hair. So for example, if we had oil on her hair, it's going to help with lubrication so your hair is not attaching to other hair strands. And that's what happens with single strand knots. You have your hair attaching to other hair, to neighboring hair, creating the knot. So try an oil rinse. You don't need a lot of oil, but you can coat the hair with a little bit of oil called, again, an oil rinse after you cleanse your hair. Now, if you don't want to do the oil rinse, then you can definitely put oil on your hair after you moisturize your hair. So just basically sealing in your hair. You may have to do it a little more frequently to make sure that your hair does not attach to other hair strands. Now, the next thing you can do is to try to do a protein treatment or start incorporating protein treatments in your hair. Similar to that oil rinse where you're coating the hair strand, providing more lubrication and more slip, a protein treatment will actually, that protein will patch up any areas of weakness on your hair. So your hair strand is composed of three parts. The outer part is that cuticle layer. And when those cuticle layers are lifted, then the lifted cuticle layer is in part what causes the hair to attach to neighboring hair. So if you get in the habit of doing a protein treatment, when I say in a habit, not every wash day, a protein treatment minimum about once a month. You can do once a month, every 6 weeks, every 2 months. So if you get in the habit of incorporating more protein treatments, then you are strengthening the outer layer of your hair. And by strengthening that outer layer of your hair or with the protein will patch up any types of tears in your hair or help to close that cuticle layer. Then that's going to minimize the attaching of the hair. So again, it's going to minimize your single strand knots. And the very last thing that you can do to hopefully prevent or minimize your single strand knots is to get in a habit of properly detangling your hair. So if you're detangling your hair properly on wash day and during the week, you don't have to wait to wash day to detangle your hair. You can use your fingers to detangle your hair. Of course, this is dependent upon your hairstyle. Go in and just pull your hair. Pull out the shed hair. Shed hair, you know your hair sheds every single day. And if you're not combing your hair or finger combing your hair, that shed hair is pretty much just sitting in your hair shaft. And sometimes the single strand knots is the shed hair still sitting in your hair shaft, attaching to your hair. So if you get in the habit of finger detangling your hair throughout the week or doing a very good detangle on wash day, that should absolutely help you to minimize your single strand knots. All right, Deanne, I hope this answered your question. Please incorporate some of these tips. By all means, let me know how it goes. All right, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. And until we talk again, stay back.